For day 2 of the TIFF Kids Industry Forum. My name is Lynn Crocker. I'm the Industry Programming Manager here at TIFF. I'd like to begin today by acknowledging one of our industry supporters, Ontario Media Development Corporation. The Ontario Media Development Corporation helps catalyze the cultural industries here at home, including support of the development and creation of children's media and championing our interests at festivals, events, and markets abroad. Our friends at OMDC are longtime partners of TIFF and TIFF Kids. So to help kick things off today, please join me in welcoming Erin Creasy, Manager of Industry Initiatives at OMDC.
Thanks, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. So as Lynn said, my name is Erin Creasy. I'm the manager of our Industry Initiatives team at OMDC. The Industry Initiatives group works on supporting film, television, and interactive digital media, along with books and magazines. OMDC is the Ontario provincial agency responsible for economic development in cultural media, and this includes supporting producers and content creators at excellent industry events like this one, TIFF Kids. We know that strong and successful Ontario companies are developed through learning from experts and peers, and OMDC is proud to support opportunities like this, opportunities that lead to business development and fostering new industry connections. OMDC supports kids content creators through several programs. Many of you are likely familiar with some, if not all of them. Those include our Film Fund, supporting feature production and development, our Export Fund for film and television, and the Interactive Digital Media Fund. Our program consultants are always happy to talk about eligibility of your upcoming projects and are always available to provide helpful information on our application process. Please don't hesitate to call any of us anytime. All of our contact information is on our website. There's also opportunity to sign up for our mailing list so that you can make sure that you're in tune with any opportunities we're offering, including calls for applications for our funding programs and any other initiatives that might be suitable for you or for your company. It looks like an interesting and information-filled day ahead, so I wish you all the best for the second day of industry programming at TIFF Kids. Thanks.
Thank you, Erin. Okay, so this morning's panel, How to Prepare and Sell Your Series Bible, was designed specifically for emerging content creators and those who are looking for guidance on taking that next step from concept to reality. So please join me in welcoming our guests. We have Michelle Mallinson-Cooperis, the president of Radical Sheep, Philippe Ivanusik, valet, creator of Freaktown and the League of Super Evil, Mike Geiger, series director for 3 Amigonauts and creative consultant on Winston Steenberger and Sir Dudley Ding Dong. And Stephanie Calliner, who is a writer with a series in development called Sprinkle and the Sweet Sugar Magics. And our moderator for this session is Jamie Pykars. Jamie is a children's media consultant, most recently the director of content for Treehouse, YTV, and Nickelodeon, and currently a producer and consultant through Jam Pie Media, and is a valued member of our TIFF Kids Advisory Board. Over to you, Jamie.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to this panel at 9:30, although 9:30 isn't that late, really. I mean, that early. So I want to start by a raise of hands. How many of you are dying to write your first Bible, your first show Bible? Fantastic. That's great. So I think this will be a really great panel for you. We are going to present all kinds of stuff that will be very useful, and our goal is that you will be able to leave and have some really good tips on how to make a compelling show Bible. So we're going to begin. Instead of going through each of our panelists' bios, I thought I would ask you each, why do you think you're on this panel? Stephanie?
I've written a few Bibles, and that's the main reason. And a couple of them have been optioned, and I've been reading a lot of other people's Bibles, like friends' Bibles, and just other ones as samples, because when you're writing on a show, you generally get sent Bibles to read to get abreast of the show and get up to speed. And so, yeah, I've just read a lot of them.
Mike?
I think I'm probably representing like the artist side of the Bible. I'm surrounded by writers.
You sound uncomfortable about that.
Sorry.
So it's just if you're a writer and you do a Bible, it's probably going to look a little bit different than if you're an artist and you do a Bible. So I guess I'm here to represent that side of it.
Phil?
I think like Steph, I wrote a lot of Bibles, and I've read a lot of them. So I guess that's probably why. And wrote a lot of terrible ones, and some better ones, and some terrible ones that became shows, and some great ones that didn't become shows. So maybe that's why.
Yeah,
I'm here.
that's
yeah.
good. It's not for your good looks.
No.
I'm just kidding. No, it is. Michelle, it's for your good looks.
Thank you, Jamie. I think I'm here because I represent someone who looks at a lot of Bibles, reads a lot of Bibles, and then buys Bibles and options things, both in live action and animation. So I know what a good one when I see one, and I'm also willing to help if someone has a seed of idea to make something better, so that we can make something great together. So
Perfect. And I think I'm here because I've read thousands of Bibles and now find myself writing Bibles. So I learned a lot working with you guys. So I thank you for that. So what is a Bible? It's really simple. It's just a written or with visual presentation of your show concept. Very, very simple. And when you're out, you're going to hear all kinds of terms. So a one-pager, a pitch Bible, a writer's Bible, a show Bible. So we thought we would all start by defining these. I'm going to start with Michelle for the one-pager because I think you would be producing some of these.
yeah, absolutely. So one pager is really a simplified version. It really is only your one big paragraph of what your show concept is. And usually as well, it would contain what kind of show is it? Is it live action? Is it animation? Is it half an hour? Is it 11 minutes? Is it preschool? Is it teen? That's your definition. And then usually it has a visual. So again, if it's animation, you want to have your key visual on your one pager. And if it is live action, you want to have concept art that you can pull off and say, it looks like a cross between, Haunted Mansion and The Simpsons. Yeah, but don't put The Simpsons on there. It's always Degrassi. Degrassi meets. So it really is a simplified, it really is sometimes just two sides. It's literally one page with two sides of information, but doesn't get too deep into the show.
Okay. Phil, can you tell us what you think is a pitch Bible?
Well, the pitch Bible is I guess it's like the natural evolution of your one pagers. So with your one pager is just, if it's just like the sketch of what the entire show is, the pitch Bible I think is a slightly more in-depth thing. So you'll usually have when we do pitch Bibles, we'll have the synopsis of the show. We'll have some character descriptions, not too many, just the sort of your core characters. Maybe brief locations, some episode springboards and synopses, and then just your sort of contact info and stuff. So I think that's the one that's I guess the most commonly used, I think, in terms of approaching a broadcaster or a producer before the show gets put into production.
And I should have put this down, but this is also called a mini Bible. So a pitch Bible and mini Bible, I would say, would you agree that they're interchangeable? Yeah, they're interchangeable.
It's the same thing.
Okay, and the same thing with the last two, Writer's Bible and Show Bible. Would you think that those would be interchangeable terms?
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I usually get sent as a writer the writer's Bible. Oh, sorry.
Under your chin.
You get usually sent the writer's Bible, like if you're going to be like freelancing on a show, and then that way you can get a gist of the show and write it. Sometimes I find that the show Bible, when I think of show Bible, I think of a document that gets updated sometimes after the first season, because sometimes the show, it almost always changes, and then you can update it after for like season 2, I'd say, going forward.
And I think about that writer's Bible, I find it's where you get really, really, really in depth. It's basically more like an IKEA catalog for your writers, because when you're on a show and you're producing all your episodes, sometimes you'll have writers come in mid-season, early on, or just do some spot pitching on your show. So just come in for like 1 or 2 episodes, and your writer's Bible is your like, this is your survival kit. You put it in your parachute and you just jump out with the plane, and this is what this character does. This is what this character likes. This is what this character wants. So it gets more technical about the sort of the crux of these characters. So
It should be known, though, that very often those don't actually get made.
Yeah,
Because,
or updated.
because it's just, time and everything. They're wonderful if they can happen. But from a conceptual standpoint, you're looking at a mini Bible is really your strongest. And then usually if you go into development, you may take it to a Bible. But then, it usually changes, never gets updated.
Right, that's right.
But that time you're in production on your show, so it doesn't really matter.
Or you
right?
make the story coordinator update.
we had one on one show that we actually did have a writer's Bible, and it was great. Like it was fun. But I had to take a couple of weekends to do it right.
It also almost always contains a lot of information that's not really, a lot of backstory, that you would never actually use to write. It's just,
Okay, so when we spoke about 2.5 weeks ago, and we decided that we would talk about the elements that every single Bible should contain, whether it's a pitch Bible or a show Bible. And so this is, I've got it in front of me. The title, the synopsis, the character descriptions, the setting and locations, the tone and feel, premises, springboards, bio, and contact information, which actually gets forgotten, believe it or not. And then we're going to talk about sizzle and artwork. So we decided that we would divide each of these sections among ourselves and talk about each one in a little bit more depth. But before we do that, I want to ask you guys, how important do you think the title of your show is? Can you actually pitch a show and have a working title?
If you have a working title, it'll usually end up being your title. Like that's the thing. If your title's kind of bad, and you're like, we'll come up with something better down the road. Sometimes you don't, and then you end up sort of getting stuck with your title. But
a great title can also immediately sell your project. So
can you give us examples?
Yeah, I have a show in development, and actually DHX is working with us have taken over the project and are working with Radical Sheep. But literally, it's kitten, pony, princess, and I said sold. And it's just catchy and love it. Got it immediately what the show is, and I hope it never changes. But now it might after after 6 years of development. I think now maybe it's changing. But I loved it from the moment I heard it.
Pony, kitten, princess.
What about that nasty princess word that people butt up against? I don't know. It's gonna be kitten scout pony. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to you, Stephanie, because you're starting. Here's your clicker.
Oh, thank
Enjoy
you.
it.
Oh, wow, this is so much power. Imagine I just click through everybody's slides.
Watch where you point the beaming tool.
Is it, it's not on though right now. Okay.
No, just
I
the green.
have to push it. Okay.
No, you can't chase it.
Oh my, this is fun. Okay, so the synopsis according to Stephanie. All right. So basically, I find this page the hardest to write because it's the first page that people see, other than like a splash page, if you even have art. But because like Mike said, I'm not an artist. My Bibles, when I first write them, are all text. So it's really daunting what you're going to put on your first page because it has to draw the reader in and summarize the show without being too dry. And the actual way you write it has to represent the show, like the voice of your show has to be represented in the text. So it's really challenging, and it's my least favorite part, but it's really important. So here we go. So, and keep in mind, this is just how I write it. There's like lots of different ways to do it, but this is what I tend to focus on. And if you had art, then you'd probably have less room for text. So you'll have to find that balance. And okay, so I always open up with like a log line, which is also super hard to write because it's like the whole essence of your show distilled in like 2 sentences. And I find it hard because when I'm going through it, it can get kind of dry when you're explaining it. So I tend to think of it, and this always helps me, like I imagine like I'm pitching it to a friend and how I would pitch it in 2 seconds if they're like, oh, what are you up to lately? And you're like, oh, I'm writing a show about a blah, 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 blah. And then if they laugh or smile, you're like, there it is, that's the log line. Because you want to kind of lead with the most enticing information in like 2 sentences that summarizes the whole show. So it's tricky, but yeah, if you think about making it conversational, like you're talking to your friend, it's much easier. Then I dive into talking about the main premise of the show. I'll usually write a paragraph about that, and then just think about it like this is the main concept. So I always ask myself, like I'll go like, okay, this is a show about, so it's sort of like a longer version of what you would tell your friend. Basically, you can tell that I bore my friends by talking about shows a lot. In this, I think it's sometimes you get wrapped up in wanting to talk about all the details. You can save that for later in the Bible and just lead with the most interesting stuff and the true, like, distilled core. Like, read through it several times and pare down as much as you can, and then show it to somebody and be like, does this still make sense? And if they say yes, then you're good. Then I dive into a paragraph about the characters and just really the main characters, and keep it really, really brief. Just the most exciting things about them, and then also you want to imply, why them? Why these characters? Like, how are they going to generate story together? Why did you pick these two characters? Why did you pair them up? Or why did you create an ensemble? How are they going to butt up against each other? But again, you want to get that all down to one paragraph. So it's totally doable. Again, like, keep it conversational as possible. And then I dive into another short paragraph where I talk about basically what to expect out of the show, like when you're going to quickly tell somebody what an episode is like, you give like a quick example. So I put an example here, like, our duo can barely stay out of trouble, like the time they blew, 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 or the time they did blah, blah, blah. And so, but you keep those examples kind of like fun, as like the funnest possible example of what could happen on your show, like a typical episode. And
unless it's a heavy drama.
Unless it's Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
I keep in mind I only write
time they got hit by a bus.
So
Yeah.
By the time they...
yeah. Don't do that. But if it's a comedy, you want to put like fun examples of what to expect from an episode to get people excited. And then the closing paragraph is almost just as hard as the opening log line, where again you want to kind of distill the essence of your show, but then phrase it in a way like you're gonna lead them on a journey, and the journey is the rest of the Bible. So you want to like sort of distill it down and kind of whet their appetite. So I put a little sample from a Bible I wrote. So don't use this in yours. But yeah, so in each 11-minute episode, Sprinkle's magic will backfire, launching Kara outside her comfort zone, forcing her to deal with blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that first sentence is like basically the entire show. And then the last sentence with Sprinkle's help, see what I did there? Kara is able to come out of her shell, find her voice, and have a ton of sweet adventures. And then hopefully as a reader, you're like, what sweet adventures? And then you keep reading the Bible.
And what helped?
Which is what I did. I did, and I bought this one. So there you go. It was awesome.
Thank you. Then these are some things that are worth sneaking into the first page if you have room for it, I think. So you want to mention the age group the show is targeted for, the length of the episodes, the genre. So like, as I wrote, comedy, drama, mystery. If it is a live action show or animated. And then I always like try to sneak in a quick one of these because it really helps sell it to people who aren't sure what you're talking about. And so like I put a little quick comparison. It's like Twin Peaks meets Gossip Girl with the comedy of Buffy, which is me watching Riverdale and trying to distill it down to
that one's a double-edged sword, because there's a lot of times where you'll read like when that one's good, but be careful because those can like bite you in the bum. Because sometimes someone was like, oh, it's like, because sometimes people just use the buzzwords. So like, it's like SpongeBob meets Gravity Falls. Like, well, what of SpongeBob and what of Gravity Falls? And then once I swear the Gravity Falls comparison they had was like, well, because it's like half-hours. It's half-hour episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's no like.
Or
I mean,
I've actually seen people say it's better than.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Be careful of that too.
Like, is it now? Is it like you don't want to feel like your reader is gonna challenge you or like start booing you kind of thing. Like as they're reading, if you read a Bible and you go boo, like
Exactly.
it's like South Park but way funnier, edgier.
Or if
like,
you
no, it isn't.
if you pick two shows they don't like, then
Oh, yeah,
you're in
that's
trouble
the
yeah.
too.
other thing. Yeah.
It's like I don't know.
I once did one where I put really old references, so don't do that either, because sometimes that'll bite you in the butt, because they'll be like, what, is your show really old? Was it like made in the 40s?
Yeah.
I think one of the ones that we used that one of the ones that I thought worked really well on the show we did was Home Alone meets War of the Worlds, and it was like, yeah, that I see it. So that one I think worked out well for us, and then some other ones just didn't, and sometimes we just didn't use any. So
I sold one last year that was it's Home Alone but set in the woods.
Oh, there you go.
So it's always Home Alone. Always put Home Alone.
Always put Home
It
Alone.
works.
Amanda in the
When
audience sold me on Degrassi on roller skates.
Oh, that's fun.
Set in roller derby, and I was like, yep.
Yeah.
I'd watch that. And then I think I've got one more slide. Remember. So these are just some things that I've struggled with in the past, where I've buried like the coolest details of the show in like the 4th page, and people might not get to that page. So if you've got something really interesting, it's better to put it on the 1st page. That's basically it. I mean, yeah. So. Yeah, don't feel like you have to cram everything in, because you don't want it to be too dense. You still want it to feel streamlined, and especially if you have art, then you're not going to have room for all this information anyways on the 1st page. So you just want to put the most important stuff. But it's just broad strokes of your show with some, if it's a comedy, some comedy and some fun poked in it.
I was gonna add, just because this is daunting, and I know you mentioned that it's the hardest part to write. It's the hardest part to write for me. And usually it's oddly it's where we try to start, and I think that I've learned recently that that's probably where I like to end now. So on a Bible that I wrote recently, we actually just went in and did like it's almost like look at writing like painting. I don't know. You just like rough it out. You sketch it out. So you'll sketch your character pages. You'll sketch your locations. You do your episodes. You do all that stuff. Because then, as you're doing that process, you'll learn what the show's about, and you'll start to learn that that little your sprinkle log line thing that at the end it's awesome. Like it speaks to the show. But I'm sure, if you kind of go through the whole process of writing and coming up with the characters and doing the stuff, then you can kind of retroactively go back to your log line and say, oh, this is what this show's about, because I put in sort of the effort. And to put in the legwork to figure it out, and then all of a sudden it just makes sense, and then you have that little moment where you just like the light shines on down from your basement ceiling, because you're probably writing this in the basement.
No, that's so true.
And then you have to clean it up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, ah!
Sometimes I write like have to write a pilot, like I'll have to write the script first to even really figure out the show, and then go back and write the Bible. So it really depends. Like you said, it's really hard to start from this point. You have to I'll open a Word doc and I'll write 20 pages, just like backstory, like you were saying, where you'll never ever need it for the actual show, but it's just for you. It's just to get it in your bones, get the show in your bones. And
you just go and I think that's the biggest. It's a super writer thing, and I don't know if it works for you, Mike, on the design side, but it's just you just write some stuff, and then you start pulling. Like every now and then you'll be writing your blah blah stuff and have like this nugget. You're like, oh great, this is going into the and you start pulling them out, and then then you do have to edit and do that whole process. But it beats blank page syndrome. Mm-hmm. It's like that's how you fight it.
And do you guys find that if you can't articulate your log line, that your show's not ready to bring out?
I don't know. I mean, I tell everybody who'll listen about stuff, and so I can practice it and get that log line. Don't talk to me ever. It's the worst. But yeah, and I find personally sometimes I'll pitch a show verbally before I have the mini Bible ready, and then sometimes that'll help me. Then if they're interested, then I go home and have to quickly write up the Bible. Yeah. But it'll help to talk about it.
Cool. Okay.
Here's the sweaty clicker. Sorry.
But before we move on, I do want to ask a question about target audiences, because sometimes a broadcaster will get a Bible, and there's a red flag that goes up right away because it'll say, oh, for 2 to 8 year olds. And you know right away that that creator does not know audience. So what are the normal divisions of audience, Michelle?
Sure, yeah. So, and it's ever changing. And in fact, it's evolved probably even in the last 18 months. So really, you know, there's 2 types of preschool right now. There's very young preschool, which has become highly popular because, especially in Canada, with the introduction of all-day kindergarten. So with the introduction of all-day kindergarten, for example, TVO is now skewing even much younger. So when they say preschool, they're talking about the kids that haven't headed off at sometimes not even age 4 that are going off to kindergarten. So really, you know, those are those very, very young, sweet, little, beautiful, simple shows. And those, what we even call preschool. Mm-hmm. So those are like a 3, 4. Sometimes even 2 to 4 now. Then you have regular preschool, which is right now we're calling 4 to 6. Now the new, used to be able to say, for an example, a Sir Winston kind of show that Mike has done, a true 6 to 11 comedy, a SpongeBob comedy. Everybody would call that 6 to 11. There's now a new style called 6 to 9. So again, this is an evolution of the regular linear broadcasters losing viewership to Netflix, etc. So we know that 6 to 9-year-old kids are still watching, in some cases, linear television. And so it's a younger audience. It's not as edgy. It's not, right? So you have to get it into that sweet spot. It's usually, and again, there's also, we talk about boy-girl skewed, boy skewed, co-viewing, all of those kind of things. But 6 to 9 is a new thing. And then you're talking 8 to 12, which is sort of our show, The Next Step, is kind of an 8 to 12, and everybody calls it the 9-10 sweet spot. So it's actually now the 10-year-old sweet spot. So a show like The Next Step, which is a teen drama that you think of as, oh, it's for teens, is really for a 10-year-old girl. So then you have to know that market. And then, of course, you're going up into actual teen and edgier stuff. But really, the 6 to 11 is now 6 to 9.
Mm-hmm. And then there's family viewing, too,
And then
right?
there's family viewing and co-viewing, which absolutely. So if you looked at YTV's prime time and the Disney sitcom kind of thing. But again, Disney sitcom, something you'd see on the Disney Channel, like a Casey Undercover, for example, really, again, it's 9 and 10-year-olds. Like, it's for 9 and 10-year-olds. And yet you'd look at it and say, I think that's a teen show. But again, it also captures co-viewing.
And some of the reality shows. I mean, we were talking about scripted shows, but reality shows, the intention is to grab families because families will want to watch it. So
I think a simple way to look at that if you're new to pitching is just, if you look at Chorus shows, you can just decide what channel you think your show would land on. If it's Treehouse, it's preschool. If it's Teletoon, it's 6 to 9. If it's YTV, it's 8 to 12. And so you can just sort of title it.
Now.
Like
YTV,
yeah.
The post 7 o'clock co-viewing.
Yeah,
it changes all the time. But yeah, and it's one of the first questions I ask when someone pitches me. So when you're bringing me your Bible or your concept, I say, I will ask you, where do you see this? And that can be anywhere in the world. You can say to me, I believe it's a Cartoon Network show. And then I need to, because that helps me with understanding your tone and where you think you're going with it. And then when I read your materials, it helps me understand that you're dead on or that you're not in the same place that you need to be tonally.
Because you might have the greatest idea in the world, but it needs to be somewhere, right? It needs to exist somewhere. So and when I've spoken to sort of universities and stuff and students getting started in this, there's almost this contempt, like, well, I don't watch television. It's like, well, if you like, you need to, but then it's fine. You can make your film and go that route. But if you want to show on television or on Netflix or one of those things, you need to know the content. You need to know. You need to watch it.
We always say, put on your programmer's hat and tell me where you would program. I know programming seems like a dark art these days, but you still need to know where you could put that show. Right.
Balance your art and business, and that's if you want to get it on the air, that's you kind of have to do that. So just watch it. Just go on, and most of these networks have YouTube channels that you can go and just see what they're doing, and the type of humor, the type of action, the amount of violence that will show up. Because sometimes the problem is people will come up with a lot of violence and a lot of sort of edgy content and try to pitch it to to a Teletoon. It's like, well, not for the day stuff, but
Another big one too, obviously in children's programming, is educational content. So are you going for an educational network, and then the content has to be there for that, or are you not? Because that's a huge difference too.
And you might have a section in your Bible that's about curriculum. That's one thing we did not touch upon. So I'm going to pass it over to the guy between the writers, Mike, who's going to talk to you about character.
Okay, let's do this. Okay, so I actually I went through a bunch of old pitch Bibles I did, and I just included a kind of a bunch of title pages too, just so you can see how they reference the character descriptions I'm going to talk about. So this is actually the first pitch Bible I ever did in my life. Which I want to give you as an example of maybe what not to do. So it's called Maurice and the Magic Basketball. It's spelled B-ball, doesn't make sense. But anyway, so the description of the main character here is Maurice is the school basketball star who loves all things basketball, a uniquely crafty kid with unending loyalty to his best friend Ball and his home court at local playground. So it actually says kind of nothing about the show or what he is or anything like that. So I think like doing a pitch Bible, the key here is to just be really quick and to the point about who your character is, because the show is going to run on character. It's not going to run on situation or place, or it's about a forest and a house. It's going to run on who your character is. So this obviously doesn't say enough about who the character is. So I just want to throw this up there as a what not to do, which I hope doesn't confuse anybody. Okay, next slide. And then, I wanted to go back. This is also speaking on length, because although like it's short and tight, it just doesn't say enough about anything. And so I wanted to next bring it to, so this is a more recent one I pitched called Villain, and this is now what my main character description looks like. And to be honest, like this could be the most poignant, the best character description that anyone's ever written about anybody in life, but it's just too long. Like I pitched this document to two broadcasters, and both of them said, "Yeah, it's cool, dude, but you ruined our Saturday." So it's like, because keep in mind, like this is the main character, and so I'm just gonna flip through. Like they also got to read like the other character, the other character, the other character, the other character. So it's like. That's just too much reading for, like, Michelle's busy, like she's got other things to do. And it's true, like, like I'm sure Jamie,
No, I like those. I used to love detail. So
yeah?
I'm on the other side of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually love the art so much too that it's like, that's
I think you've done the work. That shows me that you've
so
gone.
beautiful.
You've gone the depth. You know your characters, and you've done the work. So I disagree.
I'll get you in touch with those people. They were pissed off.
It's a really slippery slope. Length turns me off when actually we got the slides. So I clicked through the slides, and then I read your b-ball thing because it was short. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And then I got to these slides, like, it's too long. And then I just skipped it. I'm like, oh, these characters look good. And the other thing too is that length, if it's really long, and maybe if the writing skills are like, that's why get someone to edit, whether it's your wife, husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, parents, because if it's really long and if the writing's not super tight, then that's like triply worse almost.
Are you dissing my work?
No, I'm not. I didn't even read it.
You can fly home by yourself.
The ultimate diss. The ultimate diss. You didn't even read it. I just like the shiny characters.
This actually touched on something that Stephanie said too, because she was talking about your character having a voice, and this is the first time I ever did this. But when I was writing this Bible, this entire Bible is written from the voice of the main character. So he's like, "Hey, my name is." Maybe I missed the other page. It actually does that.
No, it does. It says I never had any.
Oh yeah, I never had expectation of
it's
being
right
in
there.
his family. Okay, yeah. Okay. So anyway, the entire Bible is written from his point of view, which I just thought it was different, and people did note that they thought that was refreshing. So just different ways of going at your character. I'm going to fly through these. Okay, so here's another pitch document from quite a while ago called Maurice and the Bot. Obviously, I like the name Maurice. There's, I'm completely missing a log line, which, no, that's not true. It says helpfulness squared. Okay, so I'm not gonna read this concept because hopefully you can tell the concept by reading the character design. I included this entire pitch just so you could see it in context, how an artist would probably put together a pitch document. So here's a quick one. Maurice's, that's a spelling mistake. I just saw that in the first take. Edit your document. Maurice has seen what a positive impact his father has been on people's lives. He's the mayor. And wants to be just like him. And why not? With the help of a robot like the bot on his side. His passion and excitement for giving back is admirable, but it's also his biggest flaw. Energetic, enthusiastic, his unselfishness gets the better of him, and he can suffer from an extreme need to help others, even if they may not want it. I read that wrong. It's really small down there. Even if they may not want or need it. Okay, I got that right. Anyway, really quick, really to the point, and I feel like you kind of get it. You know, like it's a character. You understand his motivation. You understand what the episodes are going to be about. It was fulfilling. You know, you get it. Michelle has time to read that, and we'll move on. It's like, hey, cute character, get his thing, cool. Below that, the description for the bot, I'm not going to read it, but it kind of says like he's a big green robot. And so, like what to do, what not to do right there is a perfect example. Like way down at the bottom of the bot description, it says something about him. It says, destruction, a misunderstood slang makes him for one innocent kid-like mega machine. I could have really like grabbed that kid-like, and that would have been the character description. Like that would make sense. Like there's this kid who wants to be really helpful, and he's this giant robot who acts like a child, which is obviously going to be a pair that causes destruction around the world. So I should have gravitated to that and just built that out. But again, like I just felt like this is an example of just how to jump into your character and jump out, and we can move on. So I just included the whole document just so you can get a sense of this. I included a 2-minute script outline in this one because the broadcaster asked for one specifically. I put bullet notes on this series, like, you know, like Steph, like I'm not particularly a writer first, I'm an artist first. So rather than writing springboard, I might write this, you know, bullet notes about like how I see the episodes turning out. But if you want to develop it further, we can talk to a writer at that point. Sorry, I'm moving through. Yeah. And then because I'm an artist, I also, this was just an idea I had, was like the last page, like I can include a comic to sort of give the sense of like what the show is going to be about and like sort of the tone of the show. So whereas was Phil and Stephanie was saying they can say Twin Peaks meets whatever, I can just include a really quick comic to be like, this is the kind of comedy I want to say, because comedy is really individual too. Like if it's a comedy. Well, do you like Saturday Night Live? Do you like Tom and Jerry? So it's such a broad range that this was just a really quick way I could show sort of my sensibilities. Do I have time to talk on this really quick?
Sure.
It's going to be a quick one.
Yeah,
so the last thing I want to talk about, because I found this like a really, really interesting case study, is this is a series I developed called Leroy Dorsal Fin. It was in development with Nickelodeon for a while, and then later with YTV, Jamie, it probably crossed your desk at some point. But this was really interesting because this show is about, a shark. Okay, so never mind the kid right now. It's about the shark. So it's about a shark who, his life's mission is to get fish. He lives on a tourist island, and he just wants fresh fish. That's all he wants to do. But he's aquaphobia. He suffers from aquaphobia. So that's the hook, right? So you kind of get it right away. Okay, it's a full story. I introduced the kid. His name is Sharkbait. And so Sharkbait's the one that gets him into trouble. So like Leroy is like, no, I can't do that. It's across the water. I'm not going to get that food. And Sharkbait's like, look, buddy, let's do it. I have an idea. So that's sort of the dynamic. And I just found this really, really interesting because this show went nowhere twice because do you want to guess why? Should I throw that out?
Because you have to always have water everywhere,
well,
and he's like your character's avoiding something. I don't know.
Well, this got grounded because your main character needs to be the relatable one, and this got really hung up because the kid is obviously a relatable character to your audience, and so he should be the main character. And so we ran our heads to the ground trying to figure out how the kid can be the main character in a show about a shark called Leroy Dorsal Fin. And we went, like I said, we went through 2 broadcasters and probably 5 years trying to figure that out, and we never did, so it never went anywhere. So I just found it interesting. Like, you just want to make sure your main character is your kid relatable character, and the secondary character works off of him or her.
But your main character does not have to be a kid. Like, it's like it could still be.
He could be a sponge.
It could be about the shark. Yeah.
Right,
If he is sort of kid relatable and it's just about his personality, his or her personality. Because they could be they could be a sponge. They could be a stapler, but a kid relatable stapler that wants to help his friends and staple things. I don't know.
Yeah.
A really useful stapler.
The kid at school will be like, I can staple, but not the 2 to 4 kids. They're not allowed to play with staplers.
Anyway, that's it for me. That's. I hope.
Thank you, Mike. I'm going to pass it over to Phil right away because we're getting short on
Okay,
time.
it'll be the bullet point.
So we're going to talk. You're going to talk about springboards
Yes.
and premises
Quickly.
and
Quickly.
the different. No, we're okay.
Okay.
And the difference between both of them.
Yeah, I will. All right. Oh, sorry. I'm like waiting for the thing to turn. It's not that sweaty.
There it is.
Okay, springboards. There's like a million. Everyone's got their own sort of nomenclature for. It's basically it's an episode description. People will have different ways of calling them. Some people call them springboards and premises and stuff. But generally, they fall into like 2 or 3 big categories. When people talk about springboards, what I think when people talk about springboards is they're very short. They're kind of loose. It's an impression of your episode. So you're trying to say your story in maybe a short paragraph in length. So it's a sketch. It's loose and fun. Your premise is what I think is more useful. It's more words, so I'll look at it and not want to read it because there's too many words. But it's the important thing. Like, it's a full rundown of your story. You put your beginning, your middle, and end in it. And it's about a page to a page and a half. So you're really distilling the story. And I think that the springboard and premise page within the context of your Bible, it's almost like your thesis. So you can spend all this time talking about like Leroy Dorselfin or all this all the characters and all the locations and all the the how it kind of fits together. But your premise page or your springboard page is where you're just running people through the steps and you're just putting it all together. So it's like to me it's the most fun part of writing a Bible because it's the one the part where you realize if you have a show or if you don't. So on some of the recent stuff that we did, like on the work on dinosaurs and on the work on the more recent shows that I've been doing, like when we started writing the springboards and the premises with my partners. We just get it. You're like, oh man, this show's gonna be amazing because like these stories are really fun, so it's super important and it's super fun. So what to put in your Bible? Again, this isn't like a recipe that you need to follow, but I think it's a good place to start, and it's what I like to do. I try to go for like three nice full length premises as a sort of starting point. And then include, because writing a premise, though, it is time consuming. It is hard to write a story, to come up with a beginning, middle, and an end. So then maybe to supplement and to show that a series has legs and you have opportunities for more adventures without having to dedicate, the amount of time that it takes to write full premises, I would add 3 to 5 maybe short springboards to go like, you got our 3 main adventures, and then this time where they went to this and that and did this and that, and then this time where they blah 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 to blah blah blue, and all that stuff. So you just put that in there, and that gives your reader a sense that you know how to craft a full story, you know how to put these characters in cool situations, and then that you have the ability to spin extra stories. Like, it just feels like the stories kind of just write themselves in a way. And if they've read the premises, you've given them a roadmap to kind of know what to expect in the springboard, so they can fill the gaps when they're reading your springboards. Sort of a Q&A. This is a good sort of tool that I subconsciously or consciously use. Like, now that I've written it out, I realize that you kind of think about this when you're writing your premises or after you're done writing your synopsis. So you just ask some simple questions like, is this a story? Is this just plot? Story involves, some sort of character growth, and it's motivated by character decisions and choices. Plot is just this morning I woke up, I came down to this panel, and I had a muffin and some watermelon. Like, it's just things happening is not a story. But I'm sure most of you know that, and most of you know this. But a story has like some sort of like, some hook. I'm trying to think of something.
It's like the emotional story, like the core story. Like this is a story about learning how to share, but it can take place on the moon. It can take place in space. It can take place with a robot. But the story is the sharing part.
Yeah. Or it's and it feels like you're and having that
Someone
story.
took your muffin and watermelon.
I was really looking forward to having a watermelon and a muffin, and then I showed up and there was none. And then
You had to find it.
Yeah, but I had to be on stage at 9:30 to do a presentation, and then I forgot my notes and my pants are not there, or like then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, will this person make it through the presentation? And then you wrap it up in a cute way, and it's super fun. So and speaking of which, is your main character driving the story? So in the case of the watermelon snatching, the choices need to be your character. So your intrepid panelist that's trying to make it to the stage to give a presentation needs to be the one making the choices and making it, obviously there's allies and there's friends along, but it can't just be like the stage manager is like, oh, your muffin's over there, and then that's how your story ends. Like, oh, that's great. So is your character making choices? Again, it kind of feeds into that first point. The next one, could you swap your characters' names and realize it could fit in any show? That's a big one. If you start to like go through a story and realize that this is replace like Jeff the stapler with Bart Simpson, and you basically have a Simpsons episode, and it doesn't feel like it's about Jeff the stapler. Or it's intrinsically enough about Jeff the Stapler. Jeff the Stapler.
It's a hit.
Yeah.
It's a hit.
So you have to make sure that you're playing to the strength of your character. Does it have an ending? Is one that you see a lot, because there is a sort of a tendency to end your episode springboards with a can so and so get out of trouble? Can he yeah. And we and I've done it before. I do it all the time. And you write like a little, you think you're cute because you're like, can they? Will you find out? I don't know. I didn't think of that yet. And that's what that's kind of what it says a little bit.
Yeah.
Like
a little bit?
It basically means like if I'm reading it, I'm like, well, you didn't bother coming up with an ending. So why would we bother making this into a show? So, and is it fun? I mean, it's very sort of subjective, but I think fun maybe isn't subjective. I think there's some stories that are objectively fun, and because you get excited when you read it and when you look at it. So there you go. That's Q&A. Some don'ts. I think some of it was probably covered before, but don't stray or get bogged down by details. Stay focused. I think that one's important. We do have a tendency when we tell stories to start describing like let's say like in the case of the missing watermelon muffin, that to say, well, I woke up and he wore his red shirt today, and then he walked, but instead of taking the elevator, he took the stairs to go to the thing. And so you're just kind of spinning your wheels in details. What people care about your premise is the sort of the big sort of character stuff. So stay focused, stay streamlined. If you don't think that it services the story, keep it out. Jokes for jokes' sake can be okay. Like, you need to keep some jokes in there, but if your jokes are supporting your story, it's like 10 times better, and you're not just like throwing out like random jokes here and there. Don't have your episode revolving around secondary character. This is like this happens all the time in Bibles. Well, you'll have in your springboard section, you'll have like one episode that's about, if you get Jeff the Stapler, one episode's about Jeff the Stapler, but then the next 3 springboards in your thing are about like Sam the Scissors and like Paul the Paper. It's a stationary show. So if it's all about, like, the show's called Jeff the Stapler, every episode should be about Jeff the Stapler in relation to these other characters. And if it's about just Sam the Scissors afraid of cutting paper, then that feels instantly warning bells will go off, because you can't. It feels like you can't sustain your show just with your main character. So be careful about that. The big tropes is. you'll end up doing these episodes when you go to series, when you have to come up with 52 episodes. Like, I'm not saying that you're like doing the surprise birthday episode or the shrinking and going inside someone's body episode, best friends, falling out, getting the stray dog episode, like all of those things that you see everywhere. You will end up probably doing them in series because you have a lot of episodes to do and a lot of ideas, and eventually you'll kind of run out of stuff, but make sure you give it your own spin. But just don't put it in your Bible. A Christmas episode, you don't put it in your Bible. Halloween, all that stuff. Like, it might be the best Christmas Halloween episode ever, and we've done it before and it's worked. But it just feels like it would kind of irk me a little bit. Be like, hey, this is the Valentine's episode.
Phil, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you because we have to move on to
Sure.
So, but the last two you've already talked about, actually.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So Michelle, we're going to go to you, and you're going to talk about sizzles. And
We're going to show some visuals, which is fun.
I had to put the bacon in. I
I
had to put the bacon in. It was
So
the morning.
one of the things that's happening in development over the last little while too is let's be honest, there's challenging times sometimes. So where broadcasters were able to fully finance development, and so you sort of get a pickup from your Bible, and then you'd get money to write a script, and then you get money to do a sizzle reel. Or it doesn't happen as much. So often now, the production company that you come to are sometimes able to finance those with you. So if you bring me a great Bible and we really like it, we actually package that usually with a sizzle reel, especially sort of a tone reel in live action. So, and we're going to show just quickly, and we don't have to show all of it, but we'll start with Bagel and Becky. And this is an example of, we actually did get full development from Teletoon at the time. So full Bible, and it was based off of a book by Dave Cooper. So we had this great book. He's a very famous artist, but what's the show? And then there was enough there that the broadcaster said, yeah, we'll give you, write a Bible, write 4 scripts. Let's do an animation demo. So here's the demo. Bagel and Becky.
Becky, wake up! It's a new day! Good morning, Mr. Morning. Hello, Mr. Hydrant. I'll be seeing you later. Hello, Mr. Lucky Hat. Wah! My hat! It's gone!
That wasn't me! Take Bagel! Here's what you want! What I meant was, Bagel, what's wrong?
My lucky hat is missing! I looked everywhere! Oh, except under the pillow. Nope, not there. Still no. Nope.
Focus! Now when
We
was
can
the
stop
last
it
time
there
you remember
anyway. But we were very fortunate to get like a minute and a half of that, right? So then we had a full package, and then obviously it's selling around the world, and it's currently airing a Teletoon every day at 4:30. So another one is, so just quickly going through some sizzles, and then some sizzle do's and don'ts, and then I'll show you a couple other examples. So a well-crafted sizzle reel can help give the buyer a better vision of the property. So right now it used to be you could just sort of give your Bible and you get picked up from that, and that there's a change to that. So we really want to sort of show a test of the show, a tone of the show. So you want to create a true representation of what you think the show is going to be. Use appropriate music. So again, music is the key in a quick little sizzle reels, but if it's not for broadcast, you can use music wherever you may find it. Do use humor where necessary. So again, if it's funny, make sure it's funny. Or if you're selling a show that's not a comedy, obviously you're trying to set the pace and the tone and the feel and everything of what you can do for as cost effectively as possible. Don't use animation designs that you don't love. Please, no clip art. I beg you. It happens a lot. Just picking up clip art off the internet and throwing it onto your Bibles or sizzles. It's just something for me. Like, you look at Mike Geiger's art and you get excited, and then you get a piece of clip art, right? And you're not so excited. And make sure your sizzle reel is no longer than 2 minutes, because I'm very busy. Like, people like us are very busy, and it's like, again, I have a very short attention span, so I want to know I'm excited within the first 30 seconds. And don't use guide tracks if you don't have to. And again, this is where a production company can probably help you if they love your idea, is you really want the voices to be professional voices, not your friends in the basement. Sometimes the friends in the basement are amazing, but usually they're not. And you really like, in the case of that, you know, it's Kevin McDonald from Kids in the Hall. Like, you can't beat that. So you try and use the real voices because, again, those are the characters. You're trying to get people to love and know your characters. So we're going to show 2 more sizzles. One I'm really proud of. This is an example of, we pitched it to Treehouse. You weren't there that day, Jamie. Where we thought, we have a slam dunk, we have this Bible, we have this great art, we're all excited, and it just didn't go anywhere. And it really didn't, everyone loved the idea but didn't get it. No one would pick it up. And then we self-financed the demo you're about to see. The one we're going to show is the Nighty Knocks next. And now that we have this demo and we're sharing it with the world, there's massive excitement. So it just goes to show sometimes you need a little bit more. And it's created by Matthias, who's in the audience. So let's show the Nighty Knocks.
The fireflies are glowing, the crickets start their show, and good night means good morning for the Nighty Knocks, the Nighty Knocks. Quilty, Rocky, Rosie, eager, clever, Rosie, we're so glad you came to see all our new discoveries. Staying up with the Nighty Knocks, no problems too big for the Nighty Knocks. We're gonna save the day before the sun comes up.
Nice.
It's awesome. So that's just an example of, you know, we really were trying to show and talk about, but no matter what you do, it's not until you can actually see it that you get it. The last one is a live action one. And so this is literally, I'm actually sharing the sizzle before I have a Bible, because we have optioned this incredible boy band, this up and coming boy band called the Revel Boys, who are getting pretty hot on the internet now, but they're also super funny guys, and they're actually best friends in real life. And most of them are actor triple threats, have been on Broadway. They're starring in shows like The Next Step and Lost and Found. And so this is a sizzle that we can do with materials we already have, that you could then come to me and say, wow, I've got this concept, but let's try and make a show out of this. And this is already garnering a lot of interest, and then we're going to build the show from this. So this is an example of an alternative to a Bible, and it's called the Revel Boys.
Red boys never have a downfall, cause we smarter than ever, work harder than ever, and we hella clever. Yeah, you like Spice Girls? Well, homies right here with these Spice Boys, you make nice noise. If you couldn't tell, we need a deal word to how we man down, let's get revved up.
The Revel Boys is we're a collective of friends.
You can call us a bunch of different things. You can call us a band, a group.
Overall, we just like to have fun, you know?
We dance, we sing, we act, we perform.
There ain't nothing we can't do when we're together, and we have a lot of fun while we do it.
That's how we do it. And we'll be singing at the bar, la la la, acting like a rock star, la la la, skinny dipping in the dark, la la la. And I'll be crazy for you, cause all that I wanted is to keep on dancing. All that I wanted, and I'll be crazy for you, cause come on, dance the night away. Don't you wanna dance the night away? Come on, dance the night away. Don't you wanna dance the night away? Come on, dance the night away. Don't you wanna dance the night away? Come on, dance the night away. Don't you wanna dance the night away?
So that's just an example of something where I'm excited. I don't know about you.
I want to dance the night away.
You. Like, yeah, like that's all their own music. That's who they are. And all of a sudden you're excited going, I can see so many shows around this. And for those of you who get this reference in the audience, and if you don't, go to YouTube, because I've encouraged all the 20-somethings in my office to do so. Check out the Monkeys. And that's my pitch, is that we're going to create the new Monkeys around this fabulous group of young men. So
fantastic. Thank you. So we're running out of time, but what I did do is I asked each of the panelists to send me their 3 top tips for creating a great show Bible, and then the sins they've committed in writing a show Bible. So I encourage you to take a picture of this last slide. You can click it. Yeah. Oh, that's just a Bible I put in of yours. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have time for that. It was just a whole Bible that we put in. So there you go. That's the top tips for a Bible that sells. So you can take a picture of that. And when you're ready, we'll go to the sins page.
When you're ready, guys. Not ready.
Okay. And we'll and so the next one, yeah. There you go. And then the final slide. I had to put Don Draper in there. Revel Boys or Don Draper?
There's like 4 or 5 Revel Boys.
Down girl.
They're all of age too, I may say.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's about
18. It's okay.
Do we have time for questions? No. Okay. We hope that was informative, and if we're going to be around today, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. And I want to thank each of you for your contribution. I think it was fantastic.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks for putting this together.